Okay, let's jump right in. We're doing a bit of a deep dive today based on some sources you sent over. They're all focused on a specific challenge popping up with central air conditioning systems. It's about this newer refrigerant, R-454B, right?
That's exactly it. And our goal here, looking at this material you provided, is really to unpack what these sources are saying. What are the key issues they're flagging with R454B? And, well, what could that actually mean for you? Everything we're discussing, it's straight from the documents you shared.
Got it. So diving into what these sources are laying out, the first big thing seems to be just getting your hands on this stuff. Availability.
Yeah, that comes up again and again in the material. According to these sources, R454B is like incredibly hard to find right now. They paint a picture where, your average supply house just doesn't have it. Even the big distributors are apparently having a really tough time keeping it stocked. It sounds like a pretty major immediate supply crunch based on what we read.
Wow, okay. So scarcity is definitely issue number one.
Yeah.
And then connected to that, I guess, is the cost, if you can even find it. The price tag mentioned in your material is
Yeah.
something else.
Oh, absolutely. The sources really emphasize that. If you do manage to locate a jug of R4540B, brace yourself. They specifically mention a figure that jumped out over $1,500 for one jug. And when you put that next to the cost of older, more established refrigerants, it's just drastically higher.
1,500 bucks, wow.
Yeah. And what's really interesting, or maybe concerning, that the material points out is what happens when you combine that high cost with the scarcity.
Okay, let's break that down, because the sources seem pretty worried about the potential fallout there. This isn't just about, like, a bigger bill, is it? It sounds like there are real risks involved if your system breaks down.
Exactly. That's the connection the sources make. They highlight the serious risk of really long outages and potentially incredibly expensive repairs if your unit, one using R454B, springs a leak. Imagine you get a brand new system installed with this refrigerant, then maybe soon after a coil leaks or something.
Right.
The sources suggest you could be stuck. No cooling for days, maybe even weeks, just because the replacement refrigerant isn't available.
Days or weeks without AC, especially in the summer.
Her.
That's rough. And then adding that $1,500 plus cost per jug onto the repair? Ouch. The bill would be huge based on these sources.
That's precisely the scenario the material describes. Any repair that needs a recharge, even for what seems a small leak, could be through the roof financially. That's the kind of language they use, because that refrigerant cost is just so high. So the core message we're seeing in these sources seems to be about protecting people from these big, unpredictable costs and, frankly, the discomfort.
Okay, so you've got the scarcity, the really steep price, and then these risks, long waits for repairs, huge bills. Given all that, what's the general steer from your sources for someone maybe looking at AC options right now?
Well, based on these immediate practical problems they outline, the sources give some pretty clear advice. They basically suggest maybe pumping the brakes on systems using R454B, just for now. Instead, they recommend looking at units that use refrigerants that are, proven, readily available. They mention R32 as an example.
Oh, 32. Oh.
Yeah. And the reasoning, according to the sources, is straightforward. Prioritize your immediate comfort and, well, peace of mind, at least until these R454B supply issues get sorted out and maybe the prices come down to earth a bit.
Right. So quick recap from the material then. R454B is tough to find right now. If you do find it, it's expensive, like $1,500 plus a jug expensive. And that combo means if your system leaks, you could face days or weeks with no AC and a massive repair bill. So the sources lean towards sticking with something like R32 for the time being.
Pretty much. It's weighing those current very real challenges against, what might be coming down the line technologically.
Which kind of leaves us with a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on after hearing about these sources. How do you balance the potential future upsides of new tech, like R454B might eventually offer, with these immediate practical hurdles and costs that the sources are describing right now? Definitely something to consider when you're making those big decisions about your home systems.